Hi, Josh, Cullen Cosplay. Seems like videos are more fun when they're holding them. No, we're not going to do that. Hello! Hello, Joshua with Cullen Cosplay. This is going to be my first experience actually recording stuff. Hopefully I do not bore you. I'm going to jump straight into stuff. Just so you know, I do have 3 kids. I have 2 huskies. I actually got 7 puppies right now sitting in a room, so if chaos happens, expect it, because we have a full house. But what I do for costumes, I always start with a pet program. Try to find at least stuff that I do. I'm going to post a link for JFcustom's thread, which to me is, he's pretty much, I think 80% of my suits I've built so far are just JF Custom suits. And that's just because when he sees foam, he sees foam. So I'm going to start with a template. Hopefully, you know, after I lay it down, show you what we do. But anyways, he still leaves hills and valleys. He doesn't separate all this stuff. He leaves it on there because when you actually put it together, you're going to fold the foam and it's actually going to create the hill. So it's all one piece. It's streamlined. These, for people who aren't foam experts, you'll see some people go, oh, get rid of these tabs because you don't need it because it's foam. No, you actually need them. And he keeps them on there for a reason, because whenever you do the overlays, you actually lay it on top of that piece. So if this piece goes here, it's going to overlay on top of the other piece. And he does that so you have somewhere to lay it. If you don't, then you're trying to sit there and do like a half edge. It's just a mess with foam. But remember, whenever you see extra stuff like this, keep it on there. Cut out the templates like he has it. The only thing I suggest is when you see like a circle, it's going to look kind of like a stop sign. It's going to be an octagon. Cut out a circle instead. Try to cut out the templates around it. Use PEP as a guide. You don't have to do it completely or you'll look like a 3D program. So if you've seen the Guyver one I did, the Dark Guyver, the horn wouldn't look right if I followed the program. I actually made straight cuts instead of line, dash, line, dash. But enough of that. Tools. What I use for everything, a pair of kitty scissors. I think I preach these every time. I use 6mm foam. It is Toys R Us foam. It actually has a basketball court print, so don't be, and they actually discontinued it, so I'm sorry. But I use these for the angles. I also use these to trim up stuff. This is really great for foam, and they're the soft tip, so I don't hurt myself. For cutting, I do use retractable blades. They are break off, so after each piece, if I do a left arm, I break off a blade. If I do a right arm, break off a blade. So I do go through quite a bit after each specific part, but the blades for a 10-pack are only $1.50 at Harbor Freight. So really cheap, really expensive. Dremel for the corners. It's just a Dremel 300. I actually have a barrel sander on there. Daniel Christopher Wright was like the king of this. If you see all the Halo gear, all the 405th guys do, he was the first one that I saw that actually used it for print on the Halo suits, which was unreal. The foam, also it's used for the corners. Anytime I make those cuts with the kitty scissors, you don't want your angles to look like that, so you cut right there, you cut at an angle, Dremel it, and then they're flush. They're nice and pretty. Use a pen for, you got to make sure whenever you do draw this stuff, I'm going to show that. So I use a pen to draw it on there, and then of course a hot glue gun. And that's it. So for all the suits you've seen, the Guyver suit, the Dark Guyver helmet, pretty much all the suits is hot glue gun and this set of tools. So don't think it's, you know, super expensive to work with foam, depending on what type you get. Everybody has their own techniques, ways of doing things, how to coat it. The cost is up to you. I keep mine cheap. I wear it as soon as I can, and then I move on to the next project. So enough with the rambling. I'm going to start cutting into stuff and then show you how I do it. Hopefully you pick up some stuff that will help out. So keep me posted. Let me know. Show me what you got, and I will get going. Okay, since I'm not a professional cameraman and I have this little handy cam, I'm going to try to show you what I got. As far as cutting, at least what I do, I do have a mat, one of the little green cutting mats underneath the table because I butchered it when I did War Machine. So needless to say, get one of those when you do cutting too. Like I said, I think, doesn't look like it, I already cut off a fresh blade for one of these. But anytime I start working on this stuff, when you have all these corners, I actually start there. I go in to the corner, and I'll show you why. Whenever, literally, this is it. This is just hours of just cutting. You go that way. If you come back this way, you're going to have a nice edge. When you actually break into this way and pull, when your blade starts getting dull, it's actually going to pull that edge, and it's not going to be a flush corner. So what I do is literally all these corners, I cut to the corner, cut to the corner, cut to the corner. And I do all those first with the freshest part of the blade, and then I go back in and hit everything else. And that's literally your first step. After I get these cut out, I'll show you how to do the undercuts. But like I said, I always recommend going in to each corner. That's all you do. Traced everything down with a black marker, cut them out, and I do one cut because it's 6mm foam. I know there's examples on people use that 1/2 inch, and so they cut it twice. This is, you saw how easy it was to cut. I cut that way and cut that way without even using any force. So I'll show you the underscores as soon as we get done with it, and we'll round off the edges, and we'll have a predator butt. So needless to say, all your templates that do have the hills and valleys on there, keep them, because after you're done cutting them out, you're gonna be tracing with them. Now the reason I don't put left, right, stuff like that on these is because when you cut out foam, they're unique pieces, so the left side is only gonna have left side pieces when you actually look at the PET program. So this piece, all I gotta do is look for one that actually matches up, and there it is. I didn't have to mark on it, write it, just waste time like that. But what I do, and I think Jeff did this too, you literally just punch out where all the lines are. Through the paper, and then you actually have the holes where you need to draw them. Just like that. Then you match your actual deal, which is kind of hard to see because of the angle of the light. I have a bright light that actually I can see my stuff. But anywho, what I usually do after I get done drawing the lines, I mark which ones are hills and which ones are valleys. So you can tell on the paper, straight lines, that's going to be your hill. The straight, dash, straight, dash, straight, and you'll see them. Those are going to be ones that actually fold upward. So there's going to be two different types of cuts that you actually do. For the hills, you're going to cut a V underneath it, which is why I drew it underneath. There's the printed side. There's none. Basically, for that middle part, it's going to be the hill. So you make one cut left of the line. Of course, it's not dead center on it. You make another cut, and you do it at an angle. So that way, when they come together, you can pull that piece out. And so now I have that. When I glue it, it's going to create my hill. And when I actually use the glue gun on it, it'll keep that shape, and then it'll give it the detail that you're looking for. So the cod piece, for instance, all those, that's all that is. It's all undercuts. And that way it folds the sides, folds the edges. Another example is on the helmet, some of the places on it, which you can't see on this awesome video, but you can see all the gluing you have to do, angles and whatnot. Now the other spot, you just do, it looks like it's a valley, which means you just cut directly on it. And now, while this one folds in, this one's going to fold up. And so you got your hills, valleys all in one. Cool? Alright, time to see the wonderful everything in action. Best thing you can do, definitely use your model on Pepper Designer or whatever options you have. Okay, so we have everything marked. The crease, the way I tell how much to actually cut the angles is I look at the program. If your fold is barely going to go in, you barely have to make a crease. If you want more predominant, of course, the deeper the angle for your hill that you're going to have. So if you want the valleys to stay open, I'll show you basically what you do. If you want to keep the consistency of the valleys, just put hot glue in it and let it dry. And basically it's not going to allow that to shut. And all of a sudden you're going to have permanent valleys. And definitely let it dry. You can't rush this wonderful stuff, even though it is just hot glue. And so, now when you look at the other side, permanent valleys. For the hill, of course, glue the hill, and then just pinch it. Easy enough. Of course, with the basketball court print, you can't see the detail. As soon as I spray it, then you can actually see what's going on. One thing I'm still trying to get used to is using a reference picture. Use a reference. If you find one that you like that has the same type of armor, which, of course, we're working with the butt plate, but if we were working with a cod piece, I would measure on myself how I want it to look compared to the actual predators. So there's the predators. So what I would look at is at the top of my knees, I would want the loin or the cod piece to hit, and then I would want to hit it right almost at the belt for the belly button. And that's how I would actually do my scale for the pet program. Once I find that scale, then I run that scale throughout the rest of it, so all of it is the same. But I like using the reference pictures alongside of the pet program, so you can see what adjustments you need to be making. If the edges, which you would Dremel, that's what I do. These are not sharp edges, so they're going to be Dremeled down whenever we layer them up. But this is the butt piece, so it's a different piece on it, but I'll show you how to do that stuff also. All the hills, valleys, if you've not worked with the pet program, all the valleys are that light blue, all the hills are dark blue. So when you look at the 3D model, you can see that everything bends in. So the only thing I'm going to be dremeling or cutting angles on is when you click on a picture or a piece, this piece has this piece folded in right here, and what it does is it'll be matching up with this piece right here. So I'm actually going to make an angle cut. We're going to seal those together, and we're going to try to make it match the 3D model. Okay, so I'm at a spot where on the template, which, see, this is a goof, and this is all the stuff that I hide that you guys don't see. When you cut that, that is actually supposed to line up according to the model and according to how the templates were, but I was rushing, and it happens, and it's on the butt, so if you want to stare at my butt next time, go for it. But I wanted to show you the overlap. So this is the second piece total. It's the second layer as far as the actual image. So whenever you're looking at it, when I said to leave the overlaps, which is that whole line right there, basically JFcustom leaves it so you can actually create that second layer with your foam. So there's your layer edge, and basically the other stuff is going to sit on top of it. So this right here, you got to look at your image on your computer, that is actually going to be glued right there. So it's going to lay over top of it. That's why he leaves that, is so you can still have that connection. I may leave it because another Predator builder actually said to try to leave stuff loose so it's flexible, bendable. So I may just put elastic strips underneath it and just connect it with it and actually not glue it all together. Okay, so final butt piece. All the corners folded over. There are issues, and that's fine because I don't have a problem with issues. The hard edges I'm going to Dremel, and all I'm going to do is take that rounder tool and we're going to soften it up. And now you get a rounded edge. And that way it gives it that softer look. And then whenever I paint, basically I usually airbrush all the lines, and then that way it gives it that appearance, which I don't have anything to. There you go. So here's an example. This is the ODST. Of course, if I would have left all the hard edges, which I didn't, and this is straight paint, so basically I dremeled those edges to make them round, and then when I went to paint, all this was straight primer and then Rust-Oleum paint. But you can see how rounded the edges are. That's just by a Dremel. That way everything looks softer. Okay, so final butt piece. All the corners folded over. There are issues, and that's fine because I don't have a problem with issues. The hard edges I'm going to Dremel, and all I'm going to do is take that rounder tool and we're going to soften it up. And now you get a rounded edge. And that way it gives it that softer look. And then whenever I paint, basically I usually airbrush all the lines, and then that way it gives it that appearance, which I don't have anything to. There you go. So here's an example. This is the ODST. Of course, if I would have left all the hard edges, which I didn't, and this is straight paint, so basically I dremeled those edges to make them round, and then when I went to paint, all this was straight primer and then Rust-Oleum paint. But you can see how rounded the edges are. That's just by a Dremel. That way everything looks softer. So just a reminder, everything's not going to be perfect. There are flaws in this stuff. Put some good music on. It will be boring. And you watched a video on a butt. Let me know what else you want to see. I'll keep going.